Peach Bowl is going to be a show. Texas, Arizona State, the Longhorns favored by 13.5. 13.5. That's a large point spread. Do we have enough bread to cover that spread? We'll see. 1 Eastern, ESPN, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, home of Caden Smith here on the Hard Count. Can Arizona State put that billboard up? And we've said it a few times, but like Kenny Dillingham, man, like this year in itself was already a success. It's house money, baby. A house money gambler is a dangerous, dangerous thing to run into in the college football playoff, especially when you're Texas and you have the expectations that you do. But if Arizona State gets a win here, man, Kenny Dillingham, I think, will have a lot of wire. And he'll use that wire to put a nice little fence around the entire state of Arizona. Right now, if you look at the talent that's come out of Arizona, that's left Arizona, rather, some ball players, man. Bijan Robinson, Taylor Lewan, we talk about this a lot. Christian Kirk, who's had a tremendous NFL career and did a lot of damage at Texas A&M. Spencer Rattler, like there's been some dudes that have played at a high level that have left the state of Arizona. Imagine if they just all stayed. Deuce Robinson, another guy, 5-star cat. Imagine if they all just stayed. There's high-level high school football being played out there. If you can keep them all home, this won't be the last time we see Arizona State in the college football playoff. Mark my words. For Texas, it's a business trip. It is. Like, Texas is no longer happy to be here. And they never really have been happy to be here because of what that fan base demands. But because of how dark things were when Steve Sarkisian got there, there was a little bit of this feeling of like, okay, just help us get back to being as competitive as we want to be. Help us get back to being in that conference title discussion. Help us get back to winning Big 12 titles. Spoiler alert, they did win the Big 12 before they left for the SEC. This is a game where Texas feels like they should walk in and take that thing over. And that sounds a little bit ambitious, I suppose, with it being a college football playoff game, but like Vegas feels the same way, giving Texas a 2 touchdown spread, give or take, with 13.5. With it being the spread that it is, it's more interesting, I think, to discuss how Arizona State could find a way to win this game. And for them, it's all about getting out the gates hot, man. Because Texas, you saw them fade a little bit down the stretch against Clemson. You would have liked to see them throttle through at the end and kind of keep that lead. You don't apologize for getting a win. But if I'm Arizona State, I'm like, let's put the pressure on Texas today, Junior. All right? Now, I think how you do that is by maximizing Cam Skattebo. Okay? So I'm talking about Cam Skattebo, but I also want to talk about Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt, to me, is the key to this football game. Because if Sam Leavitt can start hot down the field and create a situation for this Texas defense where they say, okay, we can't just stack the box against Skattebo the way that we want to. Obviously, you give Skattebo his carries early, like I just mentioned. He's got to be a part of starting hot, but maybe you give Skattebo a couple carries. He can carry the load for you on that first set of downs, get a first down, play action. We're deep, and we're up 7-0, and it's like, holy smokes. The Fighting Kenny Dillinghams came to play today, baby. Bring your hard hat and lunch pail. If you can do that and you change the picture for what they can do against the run with Texas, Arizona State, they want to run the football. Like Cam Skattebo in that offense, they are 60% run. Texas is allowing 3.1 yards a carry. Something's got to give there. Something has got to give there. I don't think you want to be in a situation where, one, you're playing catch-up and have to throw the football, or two, you're in a situation where you just can't run the football, period. Like both those situations obviously do not favor Arizona State. So starting hot, ideally with some vertical presence in the pass game. Xavier Guillory, need you, brother, with no Jordan Tyson for Arizona State. That, to me, will be a massive differentiating factor with how this whole thing goes with the complexion of the football game. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. On this show, The Hard Count, it's college football, nothing but college football all year round. Now, this show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy, easy to use, easy to play, easy to withdraw what you win. Follow us here. Use code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com. We're going to do our very best to make us all some money. Now, even if we don't, when you play with code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com, make yourself $50 in promo funds to then go ball out the rest of this playoff. So again, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds at prizepicks.com. We appreciate y'all subscribing. We appreciate y'all using that code with our friends PrizePicks. Defensively for Arizona State, it's bizarre to say this, but like I think you want to make Quinn Ewers beat you. I really do. And we saw this last week, like Quinn Ewers' pretty pedestrian day at the office. Not a bad day. He has an interception in the box score, but like everyone who watched that game knows that pick was not on Quinn Ewers. But like right around 200-ish yards, solid completion percentage. Texas has been a juggernaut in the SEC this year because of how they've run the football. Same deal against Clemson, went for right around 300 yards. Now, we'll see where the Texas offensive line is, see where that running back room is. I don't expect us to get news about that whole situation before this game. If we do, we do. But I think if you're Arizona State, you want to bow up in the trenches and say, all right, if we get beat, it's because Ann Arbor, Quinn Ewers showed up. It's because Quinn Ewers and Tuscaloosa showed up. And honestly, I think that's a gamble you take here. I don't think it's necessarily a winning formula in every single sense, but like Arizona State, they'll dial it up a little bit. They'll bow up in the trenches a little bit. If they can put the game on Quinn Ewers and have it be a situation where they trust their secondary, like, okay, we'll live that way. As long as we don't get gashed for 200 yards on the ground by Jaden Blue or whoever, we can live that way. We can live that way. Now, Texas, they're favored in this game, and there's a reason why. They have several variables that, outside of the personnel, I think is a massive differentiating factor here. Do they show up in this game? We'll see. But like the maturity for Texas and the traits that they have, I've said this before, to me they correlate with what a national championship team is. I'm not telling you they win the national championship this year. I'm telling you that if they were to do it, it wouldn't be because the culture isn't at a temperature to where they couldn't get it done. Like we've seen them handle adversity many times, whether it be the adversity of a loss, the adversity of losing a Quinn Ewers, whether it be this year or last year. Like they have this certain quality to them where they don't flinch. And I keep going back to the Clemson game, but I'm going to do it one more time. Like you lose your leader up front in Jake Majors in that football game, still run for right around 300 yards. You lose your running back, your bell cow in that football game in Trey Wisner. Jaden Blue rips off a 77-yarder. That's not everything, but it is a non-negotiable to winning at the highest level in the college football playoff. So that plus the fact that they've been in a situation like this before, last year against Washington where they made the college football playoff and fell short, I think that matters. I don't think you'll see Texas walk into this spot and have an accelerated heart rate or any big pupil syndrome. Like they'll be ready to go. It'll be business as usual. It'll be let's go to work, and I think that's a massive, massive feather in their cap when it comes to this spot against Arizona State, who made the college football playoff by winning the Big 12, but like they were picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year, I believe. Like there is a little bit of a, okay, can we handle this stage question mark? For me, at least, when we talk about Arizona State. I also think the heavy bar difference is massive here with Texas and Arizona State. And this is something you've heard us refer to on the show a lot if you've watched us for any length of time. The heavy bar for us is essentially the resistance you have when it comes to competition you've played during the year. Now, this is not SEC bias, even if you want to spin it that way. Georgia is a better football team than any team Arizona State's had to play this year. Not a hot take, not projection, not bias, just the truth. Georgia won the SEC. Georgia beat Texas twice. I think Texas actually is better for having lost to Georgia twice. Sounds crazy, but I think it's true. How much does that come into effect here for Arizona State? It's not saying Arizona State can't hang with Texas, but it is saying it will take something new from an effort perspective, from an output perspective from Arizona State to be able to beat Texas. I think that Steve Sarkisian's in his bag right now. And not that he was vanilla during the season, but I do think you hit playoff time and you start to dig a little bit deeper into that bag of tricks. You start to pull out a few things, some variations off of counters, off of plays you showed during the year. Like Steve Sarkisian, I promise you he will have a game plan dialed up. So that, paired with the trenches from Texas, one of the top run defenses in America, paired with one of the top secondaries statistically in America, with Jahdae Barron being the best DB in America per the Jim Thorpe Award, it's very tough for me here with the spread after what we just saw in that first round of the playoff with these massive spreads to not take the team with what I believe is the better coordinators, the better personnel, the more experience. Like, there's a path for Arizona State, but it's too narrow for me to feel good about picking them. So I will take Texas to win. Also, I'm going to take Texas to cover. I'm going to use that first round as something to teach us a little bit about these games, and I think that Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham has a massive future out there in Tempe. I think they're a sleeping giant that is just now waking up, but Texas has been awake for a while, and I will take them to win the football game and to cover that spread. no disrespect to our friends out in Tempe. All right, I am first team all fan club when it comes to Kenny Dillingham and what he's doing out there. I'd love to get out to Tempe too if we can do that in the spring. Like that would be one. Just Tempe in the spring is probably dope. I'll say that right now in terms of the weather. But just that Kenny Dillingham every single time he touches a mic cuts a promo, and I would love to sit in front of a mic and hear him cut promos in his mic in a one-on-one setting.